Dwight Peters from quarterwaters.com, the site for social entrepreneurs. Today on the program, we have with us Nick Aster, the founder of TriplePundit.com. Now, this is a good one. We're going to find out how Nick was able to create this website and now get over 200,000 visitors a month and generate revenue while doing something good, talking about sustainability and other social impacts. Nick, welcome to the program, man.
Thanks.
Nick, before we get into it, the 200,000 visitors a month, give our viewers a little brief background about who you are and how you got started.
Sure. Long story short is I've had a long history of involvement with what we now call new media or social media. Basically, I got really excited about the internet back in college, kind of taught myself the basics, started publishing all kinds of websites just for fun, had a little business doing design, got really into specifically publishing, basically, spreading news and so on online. Blogging came along. I realized that, was something that was going to make this a lot easier and a lot more powerful. It got me really excited. Got involved with a number of different startups in what we were calling micro publishing at the time.
Okay.
Eventually combined some passions and took off with Triple Pundit a few years back.
So what were some of the earlier websites you made?
Sure. So I was involved with a company that was a news aggregator called Moreover Technologies. They were basically like Google News before there was Google News. All right. And these guys were really, one of the founders of that company was Nick Denton, and he started Gawker, and which you may have heard of, one of the original successful blogs. So I worked for him for a while at Moreover, then at Gawker. That kind of sort of gave me the experience, the groundwork to suggest that you could actually make a business out of this publishing idea, and that actually ultimately led me to business school, so I came back to San Francisco to do that, and while I was there, I was introduced to Graham Hill, who was the founder of treehugger.com. Helped him get Treehugger off the ground. And on the side, started Triple Pundit as kind of a personal blog, literally, just something that I cared a lot about, using this online technology to describe my experience going through business school, and specifically this idea of social entrepreneurship and what we call sustainability and the triple bottom line. And at the risk of a very long story, after business school, I worked for Treehugger for a while. Triple Pundit took off to the point where it was able to sustain itself.
Okay.
Treehugger was sold, and I've been working on mostly on Triple Pundit since then.
All right, cool. We're going to get into details about Triple Pundit, but I'm writing this down. Speak about that. How did you meet up with Graham Hill for Treehugger? How did that come about?
Sure. So at that time, there was still a relatively small number of people who were, serious about online publishing as a business, and an even smaller number of people who were serious about doing it with, not only to start a business, but to address some kind of issue, a cause, something that they cared about, be it social or environmental. And I view those things as very interrelated. Yeah. And so meeting him wasn't, was actually sort of logical. He was also a friend of Nick Denton's, and Nick Denton actually introduced us. So it was that simple.
All right, making connections. All right, so Triple Pundit, sum it up for us if you had to. What is Triple Pundit?
Sure. So we describe it as a media platform for the conversation on sustainability in business. All right. And what we mean by that really is, we're news and we're editorial and we're information and so on and so forth, but we really think of ourselves as an ongoing conversation and a catalyst for conversation about what this idea of sustainability means to a business audience. All
right, cool. Now, we talked briefly in the pre-interview. You said that you started this in 2006, but it really started to take off in 2009, 2008, 2009. That's when you got more serious with it, or you put more energy into it. What happened? So, matter of fact, take me back into 2006. How did you come up with the site? Did you get a developer? Like, walk my viewers through it step by step.
Sure. So I learned, I had enough experience, being kind of a self-taught designer that I was able to build the site myself. I think that that's still something that's very much possible today. It's a little bit more complicated than it used to be, especially with regards to design and so on. But it's a good idea to have a little bit of knowledge in that department anyway. So I would recommend people that are serious about some kind of web publishing startup to understand some of the basics of HTML and so on and so forth. But basically, I was in business school. I went to an unusual program called the Presidio School of Management, which focuses entirely on sustainability. Social entrepreneurship is a big component of that. And so it was only logical to me that I just saw this need out there online for somebody to be talking about these issues. There were books written, but there wasn't much going on online. So I just literally said, well, I'll just start a blog. And, I can't emphasize enough what an easy way that is to get started. If you've got any interest in writing, whether you're trying to turn it into a business or not, but particularly if you are, the easiest, cheapest, fastest way to do it is to just start blogging. You'll find out real quick whether or not you enjoy it, which is a pretty important element to whether or not you think you're going to move forward with the business. And that's all I did. I spent a couple weeks designing it, put it together, and launched it as kind of a personal, really a personal story. Pretty quickly, though, it started to get attention. And this is really, a lot of people ask, what's the sort of key to success when it comes to publishing or blogging, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. And, there's some, I reckon there's probably 10-15% of it is stuff that you can learn. Technical design tricks, search engine optimization, promotion, marketing, and so on.
Keywords.
But at least, all that stuff. But at least 85% of it is just straight up putting out quality material and just committing yourself to it and being patient and waiting for it. And that's not the most exciting answer, but I'm pretty, I'm very convinced that that's really what most of it comes down to. And I think that's probably the case with most entrepreneurs. But when it comes to publishing in particular, if you're not putting out great stuff, you can be a marketing genius, but you'll be a blip if that's what you do. So really, I just committed to it. Tree Hugger really took off. Graham had the funds at that time to hire writers, and so Tree Hugger had a lot of content going on it. I committed myself to Tree Hugger, kept Triple Pundit kind of as a side project, sort of something in the hopper that I always thought I would put more emphasis into later on. The difference being that it was focused on that business audience, whereas Tree Hugger was more of a generic environmental and design website. Anyway, we sold Tree Hugger, and that gave me a little bit of money to bring on some folks. So I made some personal investments.
One thing, who did he sell Tree Hugger to?
Discovery Channel. It's Discovery Communications.
Are you allowed to share with our viewers the numbers, or is that?
The publicly disclosed number is about $10 million.
Wow!
So it was, it was very successful.
Sweet.
I reckon I got a sliver of that, but it was enough to be able to invest some time and money of my own without having to seek outside investments, which is a nice luxury, I think.
Definitely. So cool. So you guys sell Tree Hugger, you get your little cut, and you jump right back into Triple Pundit. So, and it's funny that you said everything else about, SEO and getting the keywords and analytics and focusing. Like, for instance, I just started a site a couple of weeks ago, and that's what I'm thinking about. Oh, man, I got to get page ranking. I got to do this. I got to do that. But then it hit me. Dude, just do great interviews and put up great content. And over time, just let it grow. Don't be in a rush. Let it grow and see what it takes you. So when did you realize, at what point did you realize, like, okay, wow, this is going. Triple Pundit is growing.
Sure. Right. So I took a break. I spent 2 years building Triple Pundit into something that I felt could stand on its own. And I took a job at Mother Jones Magazine, which was a really cool experience. Basically helped them start with their transition from being a print-focused magazine to being an online-focused magazine.
Wait, can you just give our viewers a quick background, like what is Mother Jones, just so they can
get an idea? So Mother Jones is a investigative journalism magazine based in San Francisco. It's been around for about 30 years now. It's a smaller audience, but it's a very well-respected audience when it comes to particularly investigative journalism. So, they do they're the ones who did the story on the Pinto, for example, that blew up in the 80s, stuff like that. What happened was, so I put a little bit of money, not much, I mean, just enough to give the site a fresh look with a little bit of design help, and bring on some writers. I brought on 4 writers to contribute content to the site. Eventually that grew to 8. And then it sort of started to take on a life of its own. I realized, I got 2 options here. I can have a nice career with Mother Jones, which is cool, or I can take this risk and jump off. And I was making enough money to literally just about pay my rent, and at least keep from going downhill. And I said, you know what, that's good enough. And so I left Mother Jones and committed myself fully to Triple Pundit. That was about 2 years ago.
How did you find these writers? You said you started out with 4 writers. How did you find them? How did you pick them?
Right, sure. Some are folks that I knew who were interested, but we got we put some ads out. Craigslist, put some ads on Treehugger, and a couple of other places, and folks applied. They were interested, and we picked some of the best and rolled forward.
All right. So, what was your ad saying? What type of writer were you looking for? How much did you start them off with?
Right. So it's not a big money making opportunity for most folks. We hope that that'll change eventually, but the sort of the Gawker model was kind of what we started with, which was very inexpensive, like $10 a post. But these were meant to be, and we came up with a few incentives and traffic bonuses and so on. But we really wanted people that were motivated not so much by money, but people that it was nice to have a little bit of spare change, but basically people who were motivated to advance their own position as a thought leader in issues of sustainability. For example, we might have somebody that was an entrepreneur. We wouldn't really want them writing about themselves to promote themselves, but by writing about issues in social entrepreneurship, it's good for us and it's good for them to kind of raise their profile and raise their position as a thought leader in that area. So that was kind of the model. Now that's improved a little bit, and eventually, when we hope to be able to fund some more extensive writing and journalism in the future, which would end up being something that would pay a lot more. But for now, we're still primarily working on that pretty bare bones model, which works out for the most part.
All right, cool, man. So you have a socially responsible website, great content, great information. You're taking in steps. You said that you started out with 4 writers, and eventually you moved on to 8 writers. That's what you said after that. How were you able to make the website sustainable? How were you able to start to generate revenue off of the website to keep it going?
Sure. So the simplest method is advertising, and that is it starts with things like Google AdSense, which is quite automated. Makes a small amount of money per month. Eventually, you start to seek relationships with more formal ad buyers. Some of these are agencies, ad networks that you can join. There's a whole bunch of those, and then eventually you start to get noticed by companies that want to work with you a little bit more directly, and you can sell direct advertising. At the end of the day, the advertising doesn't bring in a ton of money, so we've come up with a couple of different revenue channels, one of which is events and consulting. We do a little bit of that, which means that the website is the website can function as much as a marquee for other business as it can function as a revenue source itself. Events, we've done a lot of partnerships with conferences. We promote those conferences, attend those conferences, write about them. Bring writers to conferences to do interviews and so on and so forth. There's a revenue stream associated with that. And we put on some of our own events. There's a thing called the GRI, which is it's a standard for reporting and sustainability, and we put on a training event for that a couple of times a year. And then finally, we've done what is a little bit of sort of a hybrid of advertising and sponsorship, if that's actually a different thing, I'm not sure, but we produce sponsored columns. So, for example, right now we have a column sponsored by Abbott Healthcare company on the future of corporate philanthropy. And Abbott provides us with the funding so that we can produce that column. And they'll receive, the column's not written about them. We want to be we want to keep the sacredness between advertising and editorial as separate as possible. But we'll do sort of one special post about them. And then their name gets associated with the series. And if you look at the site today, you'll see that in the right-hand column. So basically what it ends up being is very targeted advertising that's associated with specific articles and specific columns, not just kind of generic banner ads that are thrown up on the page. So that's something that we're able to charge a premium for because it's so specific and so targeted. And that's what we're trying to do more of. So we hope that we'll be able to have 10 or a dozen of these series running at any given time.
Awesome. So share with our viewers, what are your revenues for Triple Pundit?
Sure. So it's just still very modest, 10 or 15, up to $30,000 a month in a really good month.
Okay.
So, we're very much still a low to mid six-figure a year company. But we're a very lean shop. There's only 3 of us full-time, and then a whole bunch of project people and so on. So we're not getting rich, but we're making things happen, and as we start to scale up, I think we'll see that start to evolve.
Definitely, that's what it's about. And plus, you're delivering great content. You're delivering a great message. I'm trying to think. I don't want to leave anything out, so I'm really trying to think and get the most critical questions out. Building an online community, and I don't want I'm thinking it's going to go back to establishing great content. But is there any other advice you want to give about that, building a strong online community?
Sure. Yeah. Again, I think it comes down to what I mentioned before. At the end of the day, it's really a slow, hard-working process. Yeah. I think it probably used to be a little bit easier. When there weren't that many web communities out there, you could throw something up and boom, you're the car website. But really a couple of things. It's slow and hard work, and then it's also about authenticity. You just can't fake it. You can't go out there and claim to be something that you're not. You have to sort of slowly earn your time. If you were starting a website like what we're doing, really your first phase would be to get to know the players who are out there and start participating in the conversation. Come up with a strong identity. Guest blog on other people's websites for a while, leave comments, be constructive, have a presence, choose your medium. You might find Twitter to be very useful for yourself. You might find Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever. Commit to a couple of those that you feel resonate with you and work with you. Definitely. And spend some time building your identity. And once you've done that, it's a lot easier to launch something on your own than as opposed to just sort of jumping in there and doing it. And so, and then of course, being sort of acknowledging what else is out there, writing about what other people are doing, and then slowly inviting people to join you, and invite folks to come in as a guest, invite folks to contribute and talk about themselves or their own projects. I mean, what you're doing right now seems really cool. Reaching, I hadn't heard of you. I got an email. This sounds cool. And I would imagine that there's going to be some really cool series of videos up here eventually. Definitely. And it's going to be something I'm going to come back and check out. And I'm the kind of person that talks to other people, and that's kind of how it snowballs.
Definitely. Yeah, you know, I try to make something cool. It just happened. But nah, man, no, you're absolutely right. And you know, I know a lot of people have these same questions and they want to get started. Now, back to social entrepreneurship. Well, let's touch a little bit more about that. Why social entrepreneur? Why sustainability? Like, you're a smart guy. You went to business school. You could have been a part of some tech startup, you know, and not give to, you know, not care, you know, just been focused on something else. Why this?
Well, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just something I care about. And it's kind of that simple. But it also happens to be a huge opportunity. And I mean, I definitely think that this is the future of business, you know, on a larger scale. And so I think that, you know, that's why it's funny, because sort of Triple Pundit is very focused on the one hand, but it's also very general on the other hand. You know, we're not industry specific. We're not just about the small entrepreneurs. We're also about the intrapreneurs inside of huge companies like Walmart and so on. And so we end up sort of actually reaching this really diverse audience. That sort of, they all have this thing called sustainability in common. But other than that, it's a huge variety of people. You know, and it's kind of a long-term play for us. You know, there's definitely money to be made, and we'll make a living. But it also opens tremendous doors. I mean, just tremendous opportunities that we've had. You know, and you can't think about it strictly in financial terms. I mean, there's ways that this has paid off that, you know, are way more intangible than that. But indeed, you know, from a strictly traditional bottom line perspective, you know, this is a business that has a very strong future, and it's part of a much bigger movement. And, you know, we feel like we're very much at the front of it. So this can lead in a lot of directions, and you know, wherever it leads, we're you know, even if Triple Pundit itself, you know, never grows much bigger than it is today, the doors that it's opened have you know, there's opportunity left and right. And so, you know, it's really I guess we've got a lot of choices.
Definitely.
And it's exciting. So,
and it's funny you say that, man, because it's the same thing with me and Quarter Waters. Like, I started this site, and, you know, I had several guests on so far, and they're all successful social entrepreneurs. And I tell my friends, I'm like, even if this site doesn't take off, the amount of knowledge I just get from the people I interview, it has inspired me, and it has given me so much direction to go start another social enterprise, even if this one doesn't take off. So it's so much value in doing something like this. Nick, any hurdles? What was your biggest obstacle you had to get over in getting Triple Pundit, if there were any?
Yeah.
You make this sound so easy and effortless, like you did it with your eyes closed, one hand tied behind the back.
Yeah, well, there's lots of obstacles. I mean, you know, you got to be willing to go for a while with little to no salary. That's, you know, whatever, you know, that's something that can be an issue. And it's the organization, and then the you know, when you're out there on your own, you know, you can get a lot of, it's easy when I have an interview like this, I'm like, oh yeah, it really was so easy. But no, it wasn't. I mean, there was tons of doubt, and, you know, there were tons of periods of time where you wondered, why am I doing this?
Speak about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, you get, you know, you have to, you try a lot of things, you know, you spend a lot of time trying to figure out how this thing's going to make money. It's sort of scraping by, making a few $1,000s a month. You know, you just realize that's not sustainable. And so you know, that can be very frustrating, and you have to be willing to try some new things, and you gotta come at it with enthusiasm every time. And that sometimes can be difficult to maintain. You know, and then there's organization, and there's trying to figure out how you're going to run this thing, and how you're going to motivate people. And, you know, some of the writers don't work out, some of them turn out to be rock stars, but it's trial and error. There's no, you know, there's no magic. So you spend a lot of time just kind of getting systems in place before you get the routine in, where you can realize, okay, this is going to work. This is a waste of time. So you end up going down a lot of dead end streets, which you know, can be tiresome. You know, yeah, it's some people thrive working alone. I mean, I think I'm sort of like 50-50. You know, I'm great 50% of the time. Then you can kind of go crazy sitting by yourself. You know, so it's taken a long time to get a team together to, you know, build to to achieve a little bit more of a balance in that regard. You have folks that motivate you, that you can help motivate, as well as being able to enjoy some of that freedom of being able to kind of make up your own hours and so on and so forth. Sometimes that freedom is tough. Sometimes the structure actually helps.
More productive, or not even more productive, but just make you feel safer, make you feel like you're accomplishing more, or
it really does make you accomplish more sometimes. But I shouldn't complain. It's nice to it's nice to be on my own as well.
Yeah, definitely. Now you touched on a great point, building a team, and believe it or not, I think it doesn't get that much light shed on it, but that's probably one of the most hardest and difficult things to do organically, like build a strong, solid team. And like, I guess it goes back to what you said. It's trial and error. You just got to meet people, interact, and see what happens, and just learn and move on. And like you guys say out there, just fail quick and just keep it going, keep it pushing. I don't want to leave anything out. Am I leaving anything out? I can't think of it.
I think that's a lot of it in a nutshell. We're folks that are interested in this subject. We're always happy to take guest contributions, writing, video, etc. If that's something that people are interested in, feel free to get in touch with us. The contact info is on the site. We're excited. We're moving forward, and we welcome collaboration and so on, and so doors open for it.
All right, definitely. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Nick Aster from TriplePundit.com. Nick, thanks for coming on the program, man.
Thanks a lot.